as the lecturer of the day. Before he starts, let me introduce him to you. Maan Chibli is his name. Maan Chibli is an architect specialized in urban planning. He received his doctorate degree in urban planning in 1994 from the Institut Urbanisme de Paris at the University of Paris, Val-de-Marne. Since 1995, he has worked for the Department of Town Planning and Environment at the University of Aleppo in Syria. In addition to the academic experience, he has worked in the field of urban management with several international organizations, and he served as mayor of Aleppo in Syria from 2023 to 2011. He's currently working at Bahçeşehir University, Department of Architecture and Design in Istanbul. And it's our pleasure to have him at the university and today as the speaker. Maan,
thank you, Umran.
The
thank you very much.
screen is all yours.
Okay, so today our subject is the urban space. What is the future of urban space? We will tackle the question from several aspects, and just also there is no, or there will be no already prepared recipe for solutions, because we're talking about the future. But in a way, there will be some so-called directive into future solutions to this problem. I will share my screen first. Okay. Is it okay? Is it shared? Yes?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is the title for sure we're talking about today. We will start so-called analyzing things since the beginning. First, we talk about urban space, which is part of the urban element of a town, of a city. Our age is an urban age. Our era is an urban era, and under the globalization phenomena, challenges became universal. The challenges became universals. At the same time, they took another so-called dimensions in scale and in nature in many countries. The impact is now larger and the impact is greater. We were discussing these issues in urban context because cities are the place where most of the challenges are taking place. Like our era is an era of urbanization, and this trend is continuing because since the beginning of the 20th century, 20% of the world population living in urban areas. Nowadays, it's approximately 60%. So the pace is different. In 1 century, it's doubled. Now, in a lapse of 50 years, it's quite also doubled. And this phenomena is continuing. Where the urbanization is happening, normally it's happening in the developed world, mainly in Europe and the States, and recently in Eastern Asia. Where are the lights? The area are the most urbanized worldwide. But the recent phenomena, those are the urban centers. Recent phenomena is happening, not anymore happening in the Western world, it's happening in the Eastern world. So we see the density of urban centers are focused in India, China, and in Japan. So we have, for this urbanization, we have some figures. So from one side, there are very low densities in Canada here, and in Scotland, where only 65 population living in this small agglomerations, and they have only 7 children going to school. In the other side of the world, you have a densely populated neighborhood. This is India. This is China, where like 20%, 25% of the tallest buildings are concentrated in China. This is also India. This is another type of urban development, which is, or urbanization, is the slums. This urbanization is also generating another problems like traffic problems. This is in India. Problems for another dimension, which means deforestations. This is in Indonesia, and we heard recently about Amazon and other parts of the world. There will be water scarcity in some parts of the world due to climate change, for sure. Another main problem in urban centers is the waste management, or the waste in general. Waste are generating always a problem in some parts of the world. This is in Manila, where there's a landslide of rubbish towards an agglomeration of houses. Air pollution, for sure. So we're risking a lot of things. First, the risk is air pollution in cities. We mentioned that before. We have tropical storms, and we have hurricanes of a different intensity and alternation, wildfires, extreme temperature. Canada has witnessed 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 43 degrees, minus 43 degrees. And in some parts of the world, droughts for sure, due to the scarcity of water and due to the climate change. And Arctic ice melting. This is not a neglected problem, because you see this is Venice. Normally, Arctic ice melting caused the rise of sea level. So when the sea level rise, this happened in some some cities like Venice. So Venice is really drawn in water. And this is a simulation of if the sea level rise 1 meter, the dark blue areas this is the Netherlands, by the way. The dark blue areas of the Netherlands will be covered in water. So we're talking about 50% of the country would be disappeared underwater if the phenomena of Arctic ice melting continues. So the fact is, although we have almost more than 60% of the population is living in urban center, but half of them are living in informal settlements. So informal settlements, which means informed urbanization, and there is disconnection in sprawl between those settlements and the surrounding areas. There will be growing social and environmental pressure, which impact our health, and there's a strong link between urbanization and health on the medium and on the long term. So we witness recently, since the beginning of the 21st century, we witness the so-called spread of some viruses. Some of them are harsh, some of them less harsh, but why we are facing those? Because of the changing of the environment in general, which exercise pressure on our system, but our body is in constant fight with the surrounding, which means the immune system tend to be less strong or more fragile. So, um, um, passing in review all those problems, is there any solution or solutions in plural? For sure, urban space constitutes one of the solutions, but what kind of urban space we're looking for? Are we looking for sustainability, or we were looking for attractivity, or we were looking for lively urban spaces? For sure, we'll be looking for all of them, for sure, or safety, for sure, and healthy. The recent COVID-19, pushed the health problem on the top of priorities in recent days. Why not smart urban spaces, smart city, part of the smart city perspective? So we were looking for more human, more healthy, walkable urban spaces. We're looking for more human urban spaces. For sure, we're looking for more open. If we have a reflection on the informal settlements, and for sure, we were looking for more smart urban spaces that is linked to having so-called smart citizens in between brackets. In the future, cities tend to be much smarter than they are today. Normally, cities tend to use more and more information and communication technology in so-called the daily life and to enrich the city life. So it's now time to begin about the urban space. What is the urban space in the light of the technology or technological advance? What is the interaction between technology and urban spaces? Our urban environment is completely fundamentally different than the urban environment before. So is there a so-called a challenge between the physical spaces and the virtual spaces? The physical spaces normally is the spot of exchanging our experiences. Will be this in the future, in the era of technology, the physical space will still play this role of exchange, enriching cultures and exchanging. So virtually now we can be anywhere, we can learn from everywhere, and we can work from everywhere. So the urban space tend to fundamentally change than before. Urban space is not about technology only. The future one is also about about human connections and human connections. We will still be careful about the design to be sustainable and to be, we will see this a little bit later. The urban space, even though those we call smart urban space, they have to still bring people together. They have also, they could create space to work as long as we can work from everywhere, and our situation is really illustrative. We are now, most of us are working from home, and then urban space still have to reflect a certain quality of design and green, and also all of these characteristics will make the people feel better. So our public spaces, I will take examples from 3 parts of the world. There is a controversy between the role of public space today and the role of public spaces tomorrow. For example, this is the first one, the Times Square in New York. I mean, most of us know where is the Times Square, but Times Square is normally the image of Times Square is consolidated with those neon lights and advertisement. It's a very dynamic place, commercial exchange of commercial and cultural activities, because it's in the heart of the theater district. So this is one of the examples. this is recent. Less recent is the Pompidou Place in Paris. It is located in the heart of the city, and this place is very active. It has a special character, and it's at the same time used as an entrance to the project, and the place is holds some spontaneous artistic performances, and also it's from the artistic performances to the simply lay down of the population and the discussion. So this is the last one is the oldest one is Piazza del Campo in Siena in Italy. It's still one of the most frequented public or urban space in Italy, hosting also old events like the horse race, the Palio, which is dated back to Roman military exercises. So if those public spaces or urban spaces are from different eras and different countries are functioning very well, so from what we are anxious about the future, if they still play this role or not. So why we are anxious? We have to learn from history. We have to read the history. In each historical crisis, there will be an urban change. The 19th century pandemics helped to develop so-called the water and sewage system in cities, helped to establish the new so-called theory of urban planning, where you have wide streets, regular grids, and others. So there will be no doubt for the immediate future, the economy, the social and the economic situation in several countries or worldwide will suffer from recent virus spread. This phenomena is coupled also with the economic crisis, but this time the economic crisis of the 20th century in 1922 were followed by new theories of urbanism and architecture and urbanism after the Siam Congress, and followed by, unfortunately, World War II. This time, the crisis doesn't really made so-called radical transformation in the orientation or direction. Urbanization still continue. We have China as an example, Dubai as a small examples also. So skyscrapers are still spreading everywhere. The issue is are coupled now. We have the pandemic and we have the technological advance which will affect our social life. And as long as the urban space is where the berceau of the social life, so we think that in the future they might be endangered. Every innovation or every invention introduced new way of life. The introduction of the mobile phone or smart mobile phone has completely changed our way of living, our way of connections, our way of establishing connections, our way of establishing friendship relations and others. So the technological development also tend to change these human behavior with the social surrounding. That's why the fear comes from this issue, that we're fearful from what would happen to our urban space in the future, as long as there will be no boundaries, no borders now. Everything is open. So from the technological side, the technology has changed the way we live, changed the way we work, and with the speed now is much more quick than before. If we compare the scientific advancement or scientific advancement before the introduction of the technology and the scientific advancement after the introduction of the technology, we perceive that the pace is really much different. So we are afraid that the public space will be transferred into a transit spaces only. There will be no cornerstone for social relationship and leisure relationship. People have, the pace of life is different, so people has no longer enough time or no time to slow down and enjoy the surrounding, so-called enjoy the public spaces. So the challenge now is how to update them and to make them relevant to this new way of life, our digitally driven lifestyle. The mobile phone now, specifically, we have a new companion, fortunately or unfortunately. Some people said fortunately, some people said unfortunately. We have a new companion that accompanies us everywhere, is the mobile phone. So is the mobile phone tend to isolate people or from the surrounding or not? Based on the observation, most people blame the mobile phone, blame the technology in general for disrupting these social interactions. But others argue that this is not recent, because the so-called technological development are not the only reason of these social change or the human change, human behavior change with the social surrounding. The isolation is, they think that the isolation is a side effect of these technological development, which happens through time. And they present this argument because people, before the invention of the introduction of the technology in our daily life, people tend to also be isolated, reading newspaper in the train. In a recent a picture is now people are really occupying with their mobile phone. So in both cases, people are not are isolated from the surrounding. So it's not really a technological reason. So whose are against, they have concern that the mobile technology is isolating people and threatening our privacy. Whom are with. So they said that the mobile or the technology in general offer new ways of connections. For example, organization, family events, business opportunity, lectures like educational lectures like our today. So for them, always on mean never alone. But we are really increasingly using mobile phone in our daily life because it's easy to achieve our task, to document our experiences. For example, taking photos. Now the mobile phone, in a way, tend to replace the camera. Technological advance, as I said, introduce a new way of living. For example, the drone now replaced the photographs, taking pictures from the plane, from the helicopters and others. There will be no more the driver or the chauffeur job would disappear in the future, because now cities are more and more depending on self-driven cars. So each technological innovation introduce a new way of living. So we are not only the changing views, but only changing the perspective of the public space in many ways. And this experience is very, I mean, at the same time, it's interesting and promising, and really change our perspective, how we look to the urban space in general. This is the space, the relationship between space and augmented reality. And this is a real program issued in 2010 by Museum of London, which blend the digital and the blend two layers, digital layers with the physical layers. Physical layers is on your right, which is what you are living today. And it is blended with a digital layer talking about history. I mean, the chronological so-called citation or recitation histories, it can be chosen by the users. So it's really another way of looking to the urban space. How we connect to urban space is changing through this technological advancement and technological introduction in our daily life. So how we will think about the design of those public spaces to accommodate our behavioral change. The design should be distinctive for sure. Distinctive urban space reflect the identity, a certain identity, give a sense of a place, reflect its importance, reflect its history. We should also be careful about, when we think about the design goals, is the compactness, which means a mixed-use environment, a walkability environment, which reflect high quality and reduce the time need to, mixed use is reducing the time needed time to travel. And for sure, a human, because the urban space should be respectful for people experience in people life. And we will always look for aesthetic beauty. So design standards should also should contribute to create beautiful places, attractive places, and sustainable also, open spaces, green spaces, and others. Why sustainable? Because I will tell you, this is sustainable has two sides. First, the effect of the climate on the people. This is a real experience in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, sorry, about thermal imaging assessment. So the in a shaded area and non-shaded area, which means area that assigned to cars and area as a walkable area. So the degree is 39 degrees. So we see that the radiant temperature is in the non-shaded area is 52. The ground surface temperature is 57. In the shaded area is the radiant temperature is 37, which is less than the air temperature, and the ground surface temperature is 33. So this is with no additions. If we add really shade, and if we add water elements, because we're talking in urban space, we're talking about shade, we're talking about green areas, we're talking about water, or we don't really feel the necessity other than beauty. But here you see that in the shade of in the light of 39 degrees, the ground is 27 now. For example, wet ground. If it's a dry ground, it's 30. So we see the effect of reducing ambient temperature when we use water element in our design in public spaces. And 3 degrees is really enormous. So livable, human, sustainable, and containing the element of urban design like furniture, like green, like water, and is a necessity for our future. So If we now look to the technological perspective, so should it be responsive to technology or not? So those are in Tokyo, Midtown, Japan. Now you can interact with your mobile phone with the surrounding. So the Museum of London experience is one of them. So we have a multi-layered interaction. For example, in our future public space, we might design responsive street furniture that they can use. They could be used as a street furniture, and it could be used as a medium of connections. In the area of pandemic, also technological advancement helps us to maybe situate people. Here it's kind of leisure. Technology, it's when the public space is coupled with technology, it helps us also adding another layer, which is the leisure layer. But I'm thinking about the pandemic. What is the reflection of those pandemic on our public space? Introduction of street furniture, like smart street furniture here. It's in Budapest, where you can sit, have a relax, and you can charge your mobile phone. You can be connected to Wi-Fi, and at the same time, it's self-generating power because it is solar power. With the student of Bajasha here, we make a think tank about what could be introduced in our public spaces. So in the digital age, so adding a digital layer to our public our urban space. In the shade of the COVID-19, this is in Machka Park. This is really interesting idea is implemented in the park. At the same time, enable people to enjoy going to the park. At the same time, they are, keen about social distancing. So what is the interaction between the digital layer and the physical layer? This is the big question. And also it could be our subject of discussion after this presentation. How we use technology to for the pandemic so-called time. I'm pessimistic to tell a pandemic time, but since the beginning of 20th century, we are witnessing a spread of pandemics and viruses with different scales, and the tendencies, if we are not respecting our environment, if we were not dealing properly with our environment, this tendency will unfortunately stand still, continue in the future. So with the students of Abacha Shahir, I told you we make like a think tank circle. How they would think if we will introduce technology as a layer beside other layers of in our public urban spaces, focusing on the social aspects, which means technology that emphasizes the social aspects of, or not really canceling the social layers. So what is the interaction between socially speaking layers, physical layers, and the technological layer? Some of them proposed this so-called seating spaces. So this is this urban furniture is at the same time used as to sit, at the same time used to eat, it provides shade, and also at the same time providing energy. So this is energy from solar power for sure. So this is the digital values added to so-called the social values and the leisure values. So people are encouraged to have a seat and also to discuss and to interact. So this is an interchange of ideas and experience. In a broader concept, the hologram shows in, this is the case of Ortaköy, for sure, both of them in Ortaköy. And hologram shows will add a different layer, which means it provided that people could not see it from home. They should come to the, or yeah, they can see, but they can see and enjoying it is different. They can enjoy this, the smart, so-called, the hologram shows from, I mean, in situ. They will be encouraged to leave home, and because they cannot enjoy this experience remotely. In this ideas, we discuss also the present practice in the urban spaces of today. They witness a less frequentation of the teenagers. That's why the ideas came of how we will encourage teenagers to come to those urban spaces, because as we know that urban spaces are the medium of connections, contacts, building experience, and others. So people learn from each other's only by sitting and observing, without interaction. By interaction, the experience would be doubled or coupled. Others talk about more so-called heavy infrastructure that might be added to the urban spaces, at the same time enjoy the or coupling the technological advancement with the or technological layer with the physical layer. So this is a pavilion, calming pavilion. You see that people could walk, enjoy the greenery, enjoy the seaside, and also enjoy what's happened in those frames. And frames could be also an advertisement, a part of advertisement also. And others have the idea of introducing technology, a circle. Why circle? Because circle, it's equal for all the directions. This is the so-called achieving equity in public spaces, and not neglecting any. I'm not giving importance to any of the sides. So circle is the perfect form for equity and egalities. So here people tend to come, interact, and sit together with those social distancing also. So you see red stop, red signs and yellow signs to advance, and then this is the perspective of what could happen there. I mean, you can interact with, you choose how you interact, building on your mobile phone and or iPad. So this is the ambience, the environment is people tend to sit, exchange experience, maybe talk to each others. Why not making discussion circles in between them? So this with the technology, and people can learn from themselves. This also helps to so-called avoid another obstacle or another border, which means who have access to this technology or who haven't access to this technology. So public urban space offer this possibility for all the people to deal them with equity, because all of them could have this possibility to technological access or to deal with technological layers in urban space. At the same time, keeping it as the backdrop of social build-up, our social and cultural background and so on. Another example, building on a design approach on the emotions. So how we introduce this emotionally driven technology into our public space and make the people interact with this new so-called technological advancement, which is set to be in one of the in Otake place. And this is the end of my lecture.
Thank you so much.
I hope that I'm not that long.
No, not at all, not at all. I personally enjoyed it very much, and I'm sure the audience has also enjoyed and learned from it. Maan, we had a similar session in the winter workshop also. At that time, you also shared with us a lot of urban related information. Now this time, I guess, most recent works of students, we got familiar with them. We had a chance of seeing them. Thank you so much. I saw the faculty members, and I think the dean is with us also. They might have questions to forward to you, maybe. I also have a question, but I will keep myself to the end. You can take questions, don't you? You can. The audience. I am referring to the audience. Are there any questions? Or some ideas, similar ideas, which will complement?
Maybe I can ask something. Do you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Maan, thank you for your wonderful presentation. It was very informative and also very nice to look at it. Thank you very much. My question is about how should we approach the future? Should we start at the universities, or the government should start with these future scenarios, or how should we approach and how should we start and when should we start? Is there any timeline, or is there any, or should we just wait and it will happen by itself? How is it? This is my question.
Okay, I think waiting and until what it happens, it's not the proper so-called position. We have to take steps because we have to be prepared to what would happen. Especially, we are facing two challenges of different natures. We have the health challenge and we have the technology challenge. And there's a big question is raised now. These technological advancement, innovations has changed the way how we interact with our surroundings. So this change would be reflected in the future to our social relationship. We know that, for example, maybe for a teenager, having virtual friends is normal. But for my generation, having a virtual friend might be normal, but it's not enough. Emotionally, it's not enough for us to have only virtual friends. So we need these kind of, and this is, I think, the intuition. This is the human nature, that we need to get in contact with the others, preferably for our generation face to face. For this generation, I'm not sure. This is the big question still to be raised. What we should try to do is really to be prepared for this. For technological advancement, we have to take a look and think, so what could make the future urban spaces not desert? For the time being, they are okay. If we look to the urban spaces in Istanbul worldwide, they're still okay. But for some so-called pyramid of the population is missing, some part is missing in these urban spaces. So this trend will be reflected so-called in a bigger scale in the future, which means we will see only elderlies or we will see no youngsters, we will see no children. So there are always big question marks tend to be answered, and we have to be prepared for that. So we have to, I think we have to start thinking about how we include these technologies in those urban spaces, because the contact with the urban spaces has changed. Now, you don't have to go to the museum to see I mean, some famous painting. You can take a virtual visit, and it is. But is it emotionally? Is it enough? Because the virtual world is not a real word. The physical world is the real world, and I think as a human being, the contact with the surrounding is very important. When you feel yourself in a place, in a physical place, it's not the same feeling when you are in a virtual place. By the way, you might have the same information. You might enrich your culture simultaneously with both. But I mean, as a feeling, we talk about the enriching personal experience, building up our personality. I think being in a physical space is also very important. And who would come? I think it's a collective effort. If the government, the municipalities didn't take this step, the university should encourage them, and vice versa. So it's a collective step, because we have to be really unite to achieve this, because we're talking about technological introduction in urban space. It has to be done by the governmental stances. Proposal might come from others, consultant universities and others. And we talk about also the look to how we deal with the environment should be, I mean, in a larger scale. We have to start dealing with urban space from the macro level, not only the micro level, talking about the environment. So this has a strong relation with our health, and our health has strong relation with our being these days, because we know that being in an unhealthy environment, our immune system is in constant quarrel and defense. And if you exercise for 1-2 hours, you will be tired. If you exercise for a whole week, you'll be much more tired. And if you exercise for your whole life, you'll be completely tired. So we have to give our body a relax, coming from the interaction between the environment and the human being. So there will be a look on the macro scale. What is the impact of this urban space if we're going to redesign, renew, renovate? What is not the micro impact? What is the macro impact of that? Because it affects the health of a larger area. And living in we know that people that are living in a mountain, far from urbanized areas, they are much more healthy than people who are living in cities, and they are object to stress, rapid pace, pollution, and so on. So the spread of pandemics is really much related to our immune system. And our immune system is related to how long are we fighting the surrounding environment. If it's short, if there are no fight, it will be better. If it's short, we will feel ourselves much more healthy, and so on.
Thank you very much, Maan. Thank you.
You're welcome, Elif.
Thank you for the question and for the answer. Actually, the topic turns around and comes to focuses on contacts. Inherently, we are contact species. We spoke about this yesterday also. We have this need. We are contact species. We like to shake hands. We like to hug. We like to kiss. But from now on, I don't know when we will be able to get back to these contact species wishes. Actually, modern world is calling for more isolation. And from now on, I guess this will increase, the scale of isolation will increase, I guess. But Maan, you are very right. A city is never a perfect city when it has something, unless it has something to offer for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
All age groups, all cultural groups, all economic groups. It has to have something to offer to everyone. I think it was 2008 when scientific information was delivered to us, like 54% of the world population started to live in the cities. Now it's more than half. And you gave a number like 60%. Of course, the natural result will be its increase. So
But
how are we going
most
to...
of them will be living in, if the city system is not prepared to receive those new immigrant or new migrant, let's say, they will be living in a so-called unprepared, unplanned area, like slum areas. And slum areas, although they enjoy some social and economic aspects, but in a way, talking about health, environment, and other aspects, they are very poor of that. So
you're right. So this, then the problem is, it's not only a problem of what really matters is not the amount of space, actually, how it is used and distributed. And this is not a pure problem of architecture, just like the pandemic is. Architects and planners are only the two of the actors that act upon these problems. Actually, it's a bigger issue. Don't you think so?
They are one part of the game for sure. Because,
yeah.
as I told you, it's a collective issue. We cannot, for example, provide improvement from one side and neglect another side. So this is a complementary approach. It has to concern everybody. Architects, social experts, urban planners,
policy makers,
and everybody, for sure.
Yes.
In governments.
Everybody has to take...
NGOs, for sure. Non-governmental organizations. So everybody has to have his own word her own word in.
Yes, and everybody is...
a future question, for sure.
We are all supposed to be ready for taking responsibility on our part. Yes.
Yeah, we're thinking, because a question to the youngest generation, are they, for example, my case, texting is not enough for me, because texting has no emotion behind. You don't know what is the real reaction behind your message, and you don't know what is the really reaction behind the received message. While talking with the same person, you have instantly their reaction, his or her reaction. But texting is which is the preferred medium of communication today, is, for me, has no emotion. The emotion layer is missing in this type of connections.
You are right. Some people may say we need more kinds of emojis. We need more.
Yeah, for sure, because
The answer might be something like,
sometimes there's a misunderstanding behind those texting messages, because you don't
yes.
know, the people who received your message doesn't really know what is your intention, because words sometimes could be misleading.
You're very right.
Sometimes punctuation is also misleading.
Yes, it can never take up the place of a look or
Voice,
an
at least.
expression on the face,
No.
a hug or something, yes.
Discussing face to face, you have an instant reaction for sure. Discussing on the telephone, you have a reaction by imagining from the voice. You can intonation, you can guess what is behind that. If we say yes or if we say yes, so you have the intonation, which makes you guess what is the reaction of the receiver. While in the text, writing yes, it has no emotion behind.
This is actually, this online summer workshop will be a platform to test this. You know, we used to do it face to face before in all the occasions. So the students and the teachers had a chance of sitting next to each other, hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder, with facial expressions. We will see what will be the result of this very particular work.
This is really in between, because you're discussing, we're seeing each other's, the intonation is here, of the voice is here, but what missing is the face to face. I mean, here we are together. I don't know how the students, how much time they are spending together in a chatting room, while in the studio they are the whole days together. So they could maybe tackle other issues than the scientific issues or the subject of our workshop. They can talk about, they can experience their culture, they can exchange their experience, and so on. I think which is missing here, because here the time is limited. And it's limited to our scientific discussion only. But being in a studio together, you have an opportunity to exchange other aspects of these connections, which means cultural aspect, social aspect, other social aspect, beside the scientific aspect.
Right, you're right. And I'm also thinking of this student population. They were so brave to join in. I appreciate them really very much. But for some of them, they might never be able to see each other in the real world.
This raises a
There
question.
is a possibility that,
yeah, our future students might be a name only.
yeah.
I mean, a near future, I hope. Because
So,
you don't see them, you don't talk to them, so only a name. I mean, you will talk to them for sure.
So let's try to make most of it. Dear students, we are referring to you. Let's make the most of this time.
I hope that I can reach deliver the idea about how we can deal with our urban space for the future. I think we have a written question.
Okay. From whom the question comes?
Summit, he has no
Summit?
voice call or voice note is. Okay, his question is that there's a demand for open and green areas in the pandemic era. People now prefer to socialize in parks rather than in cafe. Do you think that metropolitan city as Istanbul has enough open and green areas to satisfy this demand? Well, I can partially answer to this question. All cities normally has not that much open space. Istanbul is at least the center of Istanbul is part of those old settlements. And all settlements really didn't enjoy that much open spaces. Open spaces were assigned for political reasons or religious reasons. So in the Roman era, you see the public or open spaces beside the administration, beside the temple, beside the government, beside the in the Islamic cities, we have the open spaces beside the mosque and other. So has enough or not open space is really a big question. But as in my observation, Istanbul has a certain amount of open spaces and green areas. For sure, it's not enough maybe for the 17 million, but I don't know. I don't have an idea about Istanbul as a whole, but I think that there is a chance, there is a possibility to have this open in green areas in this, which could be used like to socialize rather than cafes in these pandemic eras. But no city satisfied the demand of open space, because if all the people use the open space, there will be a crowd for sure. Worldwide, is not only in Istanbul. Like if you all use the internet at the same time, there will be slow internet provision service. So this is the idea. There is a certain amount of open spaces for sure. You have the seaside. You have a network of public parks, at least in the center. The Anatolian side, maybe Imran, you can also give an idea about that. But yes,
this is an impending big problem for the earthquake possibility also. Enough open space for people to stand, even for standing, in a case of earthquake. Yes, this is a big problem. And I guess it shows differences. It's not equally distributed all over the city, the amount of open space.
For sure, because
as you get closer to the periphery.
No, I mean, if it's a planned area, so you have a kind of a quantity of open space, because there are so-called planning standards have to be respected.
Yeah.
But if it's unplanned area or like Gece Kondu, so there is the open space is designed like randomly, hazardly. It's not.
The streets, the walkways are the open spaces, yes. Yes, the problem is multifaceted. It has many faces, and many different actors should act upon this problem, but this open space problem is impending. It is very important for the case of earthquake also, not only for the pandemics, but pandemic is the current situation, yes. Any other questions? Any other issues?
I have a question. I can, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the conference. For me, it has been very inspiring. I think you have make and say a lot of things that I have been also thinking these days in Barcelona. I'm teaching in Barcelona in the School of Architecture, and when you are talking about open spaces, now we have also a lot of problems in the city center, the same as you in the neighborhood areas. And Eminono, we have the Gothic area, that even there are not enough light in the streets. No, people is living in very small flats. And I was thinking all the day, that the importance of the light, or even of the ventilation, of all these things, these boundaries. We talk always of open space. It's nice, these green areas, but we have the street and then the boundary that is the facade. And I think that the facades are very important. And normally we used to have these small windows sometimes that it's quite difficult to for the people that is living to have a very good conditions inside. And I was thinking in this project, no, this, I think for me it's a very nice project, the one of La Caton Basal, you know, this rehabilitation of this facade, the changing of the windows and just putting these balconies in the facades. And maybe I was thinking maybe the balcony can be a solution between this inside of the house and the public space outside, like this, I don't know how to say, mini public space, no, between the facade and the street. And even with the pandemic that you are not able sometimes to go out to the street, maybe we can try to define another way of making facades, or another way of defining this boundary between the street and when you are going inside your house. So it's like a question. Thank you.
You're right, because the facades are one of the markers of the open spaces. Each the surrounding is really marking the open space and the type of buildings, if it is historic buildings or not, materials, type of buildings, heights, and all play a big role in giving so-called a sense of a place to an area. But talking about the facade, thinking about technology now, we can combine the VR technology with the facade and make it changeable, interesting, giving information. I mean, it could be an educative elevations to the population sometimes. If we combine the technology to no need to make a physical changement in the elevation to make them more attractive or more maybe pleasant for the people. So we can combine technology to this to make one of also. So you see that the technological layer is also one of the markers of the open space of the future.
Yes, the extension of inside to outside through balconies, terraces. Yes. And they should not only be decided by regulations, the sizes and amounts of openings. They should be more humane.
Can you hear me?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Hi, Murat. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you very much for this very much interesting presentation.
Thank you very much.
Personally enjoyed very much and learned many things. I have actually my main concern about the future of the city divide into two different groups. One is the thing that every city must take into the consideration as the environmental issues. We hear several cities are investing in this kind of issues or creating eco-friendly city or low carbon emissions, etc. And another issue is the technologically integrated city. These two things are actually, yes, partly overlayering time to time, but they are not exactly the same thing. One thing is environmental issues, and another thing is directly related with the people's habits and their movement in the city. So technologically integrated city is another issue. Technologically integrated city is also comprising environmental issues to me. I have a question about this sort of cities who are, which are investing in this issue. For example, do you have any idea about the one country or some cities are investing more than the others, especially in technological, in an urban context? Can you give some sample cities that we can look into that cities in detail to learn more about their improvements, their advance in this sort of issues?
I think that this is mainly if we talk about the environmental issues, and combination between environmental issues and the technology, the concept of smart city now is so taking a much more importance than before. One of the smart cities in Europe is Barcelona. They have taken a lot of initiatives in this direction. One of the issues about respecting the environment is also because each city is a system of input and system of output. Let's take an example of, for example, the energy. The energy is input and an output. So an input is the same, the output is different depending on which way the city is consuming this energy, or in which way the city is producing this energy would affect the environment. It's not only, there are measures for sure, like green buildings for architecture, respecting the green areas, the mixed use for urban planners, and providing, for example, an efficient canalization for infrastructure engineers. So it's a combination between respecting the environment is a combination between all of the sectors. Waste management also is a part of the which is the job of the government. Waste management is also one of the main problems, and eco-friendly city is dealing properly with this question. Combining this with technology, the smart city concept is promising for the future. No city now could be really called a smart city completely, but there are a lot of cities in Europe, including Barcelona, who really take initiatives in these directions and achieve a good result. Like the smart city, for example, they are calculating the energy consumption. They are calculating the infrastructure. They are calculating so-called the waste. If there's a waste in the canalization, talking about water canalization and others, it could be calculated, and it could be maintained, could be fixed. Smart city is combining technology to the city issues, and one of them is also the environmental issues. But really, as you mentioned, Murad, this is a very big main issue which has interaction with all aspects of life. Environment has also an interaction with our cultural level. If people are well educated, they will respect the environment. If the people are not well educated, I'm not talking about the education, normal education, education to be sensitive to the environmental problem. So education here is important, and the social habits are also very important. Education we see that there is a difference in education, for example, cultural education, in respect to the waste. There are countries, people tend to throw the waste everywhere in streets, and other countries, the population is respectful to this, in this regard. Using collective transportation, the level of culture of the people made them sensitive to use their cars, or to use a collective cars, or to use the public transportation. We see that in the northern countries, Nordic countries, now they tend more and more use bicycles much more than their cars or even the public transportation. And I think the Netherlands is one of the most illustrative examples since decades about that. The amount of bicycles used there is really huge. At the first time in my life I saw traffic lights for bicycles is in Amsterdam. And it was in 1989, which means like 30, 40 years ago. 30 years ago. And they have their own lane. They have their parking. So the mentality is dealing with this as a car. So
Yeah.
they have parking, traffic lights, and everything. So for me, it was a nice surprise to see that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just one thing, as you were talking about Barcelona, I just put the link of the City Hall of Barcelona, and you can have a look of these initiatives. And just now they have launched the second competition about the green roofs. So they are asking for the private housing buildings, if they want to have a project for a green roof. The City Hall is going to select 10 projects, and they are going to pay until the 75% of the cost of this green roof, just to the limit of 100,000 euros. So it's a good initiative for private institutions, no, for private. So maybe this can be a way, no, of improving, no, the green in the city, not just in the public, even in the roofs, no, in the green areas. And this is the second time that they do this competition. So they started in 2017, and nowadays in this last it was increased with 5,500 quadrat meters of green roofs in Barcelona with these interventions, and also with 2,070 quadrat meters of photovoltaic panels. So I think it's at least it's a starting point. It's not maybe good to know, but at least it's the first step.
It's very important, because we in the presentation we see the effect of providing greens in reducing the ambient temperature of a place, also water elements. So green is participating in so-called reducing the ambient environment. And when we talk about the climate change now, it's also contributing to reduce the effect of the climate change. But yeah, this is the city level. I mean, these initiatives should be so-called spread out of a lot of countries, because we're talking about a global effect of climate, not only, but this starts from ourselves, from the human being, to the building, to the neighborhood, to the city, to district, city, and then countries, and so on. We should, because otherwise we will all suffer from the effect of the climate change in the future. You see 2 decades ago, we never witnessed rain in the middle of the winter. Now we witness rain in the middle of the winter with a quantity. For example, normally the infrastructure is designed on the precipitation. They calculate precipitation 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they take the maximum precipitation, and they design the waste sewage network accordingly. But you receive like 25%, 30% of the annual precipitation in 15 minutes or in 30 minutes. So there will be a flood, because no sewage network would absorb this quantity in the design time. So this is one of the effects of the climate change, for sure. Hurricanes, unfortunately, other parts. The rise of sea level is really very dangerous. There's I read about a scenario of in Turkey, in Istanbul, in case of an earthquake, there might be tsunami that might cover the whole Beşiktaş area and Zeytinburnu and I don't know, Bağcılar and some areas. So rise of sea level is not a small issue. It's really a very big issue. So like 50% of the Netherlands will be disappeared underwater. due to this phenomenon. So now the spread of pandemics, viruses. We hear about influenza from pigs, okay, he said. Then from poultry, they said, okay. Now from I don't know from where. So it's always repeated with alternations, and it seems not to stop. And every time is harsher than before.
Yes, Man, you are right. The scale of the disasters are getting bigger and bigger. And in some parts of the world where they are experiencing this water level rises, there are some good solutions.